countries all over the world have a different way of greeting each other and social norms. Japan and America are two very different cultures, which is why I've decided to talk about the two of them and the differences in their social norms. One of these social norms that are very different is even just the way we greet each other. In America, a formal way of greeting each other is a handshake, a look in the eye, you know, and then you exchange names, and that's a basic formal greeting in America. Now in Japan, it's very different. In Japan, there's different words that you use to give formalization. Ohaigozaimasu is a word that you can use to add formality or respect to a word. It's very important. Now what you do in Japan is one would bow at about a 45-degree angle and would say, you know, the formal greeting for what they need to say. An example of a way that you would give more respect in a word is to say good morning in Japan, you would say ohayo. And now to add more respect, you would say ohayo gozaimasu. I touched on that earlier, but that would mean a more respected, means I respect you more. Does that make sense? You wouldn't use that with businessmen, you use that with friends and family. Now, for showing more respect for a bow, you would show more respect by bowing deeper than 45-degree angles, or just generally deeper than other people, than the other person. In a general greeting for Americans, you would say, or say we're informal, and it was my friend, I would say, oh hey, what's up? Now, that wouldn't really happen in Japan. It would be hajimemashite, which is how are you, or nice to meet you. And then you would immediately follow, that would be actually during the bow, and you'd immediately follow with watashi wa, and then you would say your name desu, which is my name is. It's pretty basic obviously, but it's a process more than what we kind of have. And then you would just follow up with be good to me, which is rokushi onegai shimasu. So it's pretty much the same thing, only there's more gestures involved, I feel like. So there's that. And then here's we're gonna show a video just demonstrating these greetings. Hi, my name is Zach Jones. It's nice to meet you.
So nice to meet you too.
Hajimemashite, watashi wa Zach desu. Yorokushi onegai shimasu. Another such difference in social norms between our two countries is even just the food we eat. In America, we eat a lot of beef and just meat in general. That's a big part of our diet. That differs a lot from Japan, whereas rice and tea are involved in almost every meal, and they have almost little to no meat in every meal. Their meals are mostly based off of vegetables, rice, almost always, fruit, some chicken sometimes, not very often. One of the more popular dishes in Japan is rice and curry. Curry is just a kind of spice, like a sauce, and I'm sure you've all heard of it, but obviously it's a little different in Japan. But what it'll do is they'll just have a little dish and it'll be rice, and you put the curry on top, and the curry might have chicken in it. But other than that, that's a pretty basic meal for them. And then obviously is accompanied by tea and then some kind of something else like water or sake. Whereas our portions are much bigger, their portions are very small, obviously. So that obviously attributes to the fact that our country has a higher obesity rate, as well as the fact that we have much more variety in our foods. So because our country is obviously much more of a melting pot with all the cultures involved, so we have like Chinese, Italian, Greek, all the other different foods, whereas they only really have mostly Japanese food. So rice obviously is very healthy for you. They also enjoy sushi, but a big difference between sushi here and sushi there is sushi for them is a much more formal experience. Like if you were out on a business meeting, you might go for sushi and it's more expensive there. It's much more expensive in Japan. But they also do have sushi bars where it's almost like on a conveyor belt, and you pick off what you want, really. That's obviously a lot cheaper. It's kind of more like the sushi that we have here in America. Next we're going to talk about pastimes. Pastimes are hugely different. Here in America we might go and like see a movie or go bowling, whereas in Japan karaoke is huge. And that might seem kind of silly to us because it's not a huge thing, but I mean karaoke, Japan is where karaoke was originated. They came up with it. So it's obviously really huge there. And whereas we have a bar maybe here in America that has a karaoke night, literally they have bars dedicated to karaoke all the time in Japan. And it's a huge kind of difference. So, I mean, can you imagine if you were all obsessed with karaoke? It'd be kind of interesting. We should have karaoke night for this class on Monday. after my presentation right now. But anyway, a momentous pastime in Japan is horse racing. Actually, horse racing is huge in Japan. The only year that they declined in business for horse racing was in 1995 after like this huge earthquake caused tons of damage, and then the next year it followed up with $36.6 billion in income, which is just crazy. Like and then they'll have tournaments that last days with like 144 races at a time almost, with like tens of tracks. It's crazy. This goes to show that every country has its own unique way of expressing itself, and each people has its way of expressing what they do and how they like to spend their time.